Hey family, happy Friday. Welcome to Sergeant Dorsey Speaks live at 5 p.m. special edition. Ooh, you guys. This has been an action-packed day. I'm just going to get right to it, share this on my other pages. We're going to be talking and updating you on the trial. And sheesh, how do I share this? Oh, okay, so the first thing I need to do is make this public. Let me back up, make this public, and then I can share it, and you can too. Just curious if any of you had a chance to see Amber take the stand today. She was on for direct, cross, and then redirect, but not a recross. So I guess the attorney decided, the prosecutor decided not to go back and forth with her. But a lot was said, and so I am going to do what I do best. I'm going to decipher the mumbo jumbo for you, because there was a lot of, there was a lot of code talk going on. There was a lot of stuff that if you're not the police, you'll miss it. And I was happy to be able to be on air with Law and Crime Network this morning during her testimony, because I didn't think they would let me do it, but they actually let me talk about my conspiracy theory. We were talking about it during the break, and then when we came back, the host, Jesse Weber, said, hey, let's have this conversation during the broadcast. And so we did, and I told him what I've been telling you, and I was sharing the stage today, if you will, with a criminal defense attorney, local sister girl here, and I shared with her what I've been sharing with you about that extra tape, and I sent it over to her just to let her listen to it and get her thoughts. And she's like, wow, yeah, that kind of adds a whole nother dimension. I still, for the life of me, you guys, I don't know. Hey, Sandra, I don't know where that portion, hey, Tamika, I don't know where that portion of the audio is. I don't know how it got started. I don't know if there were 2 telephone calls made to 911. It's just very confusing to me. And, I'd like to know what that's all about. And more importantly, I don't know how come that version didn't get played when she identifies herself clearly to the person that's taken the call as security. And they repeated it. So they wouldn't just pull that out of their nether regions and say that it was a security officer who was involved in a shooting in Unit 1478, Botham Jean's unit, unless Amber Guyger said that. Everybody else there knew that she was a cop, so nobody else would say it. Where did that come from? I'm bothered by it. But anyway, that may be the question that just never gets answered, right? So I don't even know where to begin, you guys. I am surrounded by notes. But let me say this, because someone was asking me about, Ranger David Armstrong and his situation. So let me give you, for those of you who don't know, David Armstrong is the lead investigator, and he is also involved in a little stuff himself a few years ago. And the way the story goes is, I had to ask some of my people on the ground there in Dallas to explain this to me. So David Armstrong is a Texas Ranger, and the Texas Ranger is under the umbrella of the Department of Public Safety, DPS. So for those of you who have already seen the article that's out there about David Armstrong and what he got involved in back in February 2017, which was a vehicular manslaughter where he killed 2 people. It's reported that in this story that as a Texas Ranger under Department of Public Safety, Deputy Armstrong, I guess he was working somewhere on the border and he was transporting people, maybe. And there's a requirement that they're supposed to make sure they have a certain amount of sleep before they get on the road. And it's reported that Texas Ranger David Armstrong routinely violated the rules, whatever that means, and he was never disciplined. So on this day, February 2nd, 2017, he was involved in a vehicle accident. And it says he was driving about 84 miles an hour on Highway 281 in Fremont. And then the speed limit there was 45. So clearly, he was doing double the speed limit when he got in this accident. Now, he suffered some pretty significant injuries himself. He had a fractured hip, and it says that his DPS vehicle, Department of Public Safety vehicle that he was driving, burned all the way down to the metal. And the passenger of the other vehicle at the time was a 30-year-old named J.D. Christopher Trevino of Fremont. And Christopher Trevino died 5 days after the wreck. It's reported that in this accident, normally what happens is that the municipality should handle the investigation. Now, I don't know what municipality that would be. I'm not familiar with that area. So family, if I have any Dallas folks, Fremont folks on here, help me with the geography and let me know what municipality that would be if you know. However, whatever municipality should have handled that vehicular manslaughter traffic collision, they didn't handle it. DPS handled it. And so DPS gave old boy David the homie hookup. He wasn't charged with anything administratively or criminally. So then the question that begs to be answered is that why he was chosen as the lead investigator from the Texas Rangers after Dallas passed it over to them to investigate? Is that why they chose David Armstrong? Because he owed somebody a favor? I'm not into conspiracy theories, you guys. I'm just saying, I'm just wondering, I'm just asking the question. Clearly, Texas Rangers has more than one or two investigators, because I saw David and one other at least who was on the scene. Hey, Debbie. And they were certainly other choices for the lead. And the reason that seems kind of off to me is because he's the lead investigator in the shooting by Amber Guyger of Botham, John. And then he puts together the package, David. He puts together the package that he presents to the district attorney for criminal prosecution. They only charged her with manslaughter on the strength of what he gave them. And we know that either he didn't give them enough or he gave them more than manslaughter, because the charges were eventually raised to murder. But nonetheless, David Armstrong put all of that together, presented it to the DA. They filed charges for manslaughter. She was arrested and booked for manslaughter. Fast forward to this week, it seems like last week, fast forward to the beginning of the trial, Monday, and David Armstrong now is saying that there wasn't even any PC to charge her. Well, dude, if it was no PC, if there was no probable cause to charge her with manslaughter, let alone murder, why did you? Why did you? It doesn't make sense to me. So did you just go ahead and charge her with that little old bitty manslaughter, not expecting anybody to raise the charge to murder, thinking that you would come to court and testify, because that's what you do as the lead investigator, you testify, and then say this old foolishness about there was no probable cause, and that in his professional expert opinion, she had not acted unreasonably. Looking for my notes, bear with me. She had not acted unreasonably, and that she reasonably was in fear, according to David Armstrong. She wasn't reckless, according to David Armstrong. It doesn't make sense, family. So I don't know, I don't know why he was selected, unless he was selected for that reason, right? So that's what's going on with David Armstrong and the role that he's been playing. Now, let me get right to Amber Guyger and her testimony. And so she talked a little bit about her career, and she talked about always wanting to be a police officer. And it's usually always the wingnuts. Now, I'm not saying that she's a wingnut. I'm just saying it's usually the wingnuts that always want to be the police, since they were like 2 or 3. She wanted to be a cop since she was 6 or 7 because she wanted to help people, she said. I'll talk more about her helping people a little later on. But anyway, that's what she said. So she did all these things to put herself in line in the right position to become a police officer. She did ride-alongs. And since we now know that she was doing her partner, she was helping her partner because she likes to help people. I wonder if they had anything going on over there on the Dallas PD like they did on the LAPD. Remember back in Hollywood Division with the Explorers? And I'm not going to mention no names, but there was one that was kind of infamous that went on to get on the department and become a lieutenant before she took down a whole squadron of police officers because she liked to help folks. Yeah, I wonder if they had something like that going on over there on Dallas. I don't know. But what we do know is that her partner came out today, Martin Rivera. He was married. And before they announced that he was married, because you guys, I know what I know. And I was saying on a Long Crime Network, I said she was a side piece because Martin had described when he was testifying that he would, communicate with her generally when he was on his way to the gym or on his way home, on his way to the store or on his way from somewhere else. And ladies, listen, if you're dealing with somebody and the only time you hear from them is when they're on the road to and from, if they can't talk to you at the house, you're probably a side piece. I'm just saying. And so, listen, when I heard that, that was going on, I said she was a side piece. And then she got on the stand and she said that, yes, he was married. Now, I don't know if he's married right now because when he was testifying Monday, did you guys see him? He was like, he was like Ben Carson. You know how sometimes Ben Carson will be talking and then he'll just go into a full eye closure, which I never understood since he's some kind of neurosurgeon and with all that blinking he did. I need you to keep your eyes open, sir, if you're working on my brain. But anyway, so Martin Rivera, he had to admit it, and he had to just come clean with the affair that he was having. And so Amber too had to come clean with the affair. Now, what I know about her and where she was working, she talked about wanting to be a police officer. And listen, she's a cute little girl. She's 5'3". She's got a cute little body. She's working out and all of that because she wanted to be part of the CRT, crime reduction team. So my LAPD family understands that's just a specialized unit, right? We called it SPEW. Probably, other little units on LAPD have other names and acronyms because we like acronyms on the police department. I work C.R.A.S.H. I work C.R.A.S.H. in South Bureau, not Rampart. There's a difference. I worked South Bureau C.R.A.S.H. before there was even a Rampart, before C.R.A.S.H. had been decentralized and then every individual division had their own. When I worked in C.R.A.S.H., a specialized unit, it was a Bureau C.R.A.S.H. unit, and I was in South Bureau, South Central. There's a difference. Now, Amber's working the CRT, and she's all excited because she got selected, and she was the only female. So listen, she was some damn body, right? She's the only female in this all-male special unit, and she had to go through a couple of little hoops to get in there. She had to have an interview. And listen, we know how those interviews go when they want you, right? Were there other females that were capable and able? It wasn't like she was in SWAT, but she was in this specialized unit. And listen, I don't even know how many women are on the Dallas PD, so let me say that. But it's not a small department. It's not like, Rialto PD or any other little agency that may have 1 or 2 females. So she's in this CRT. She's the only girl. She's Billy Badass. And they work very close with SWAT, according to her testimony, when, SWAT goes and, do searches and arrests for fugitives or bad doers, they take the CRT, to stand outside and set out flare patterns because they don't let them play with the big boys. But CRT sounds like it's a step above just regular patrol. Being a part of CRT means that she's not tied to a radio. She's doing what, we refer to as proactive police work, kind of like Metropolitan Division. They're not tied to a radio. They don't have to respond. They don't have to go see the man, see the woman. They just are out there doing their thing. Heard Martin in the car for 10 hours. Yeah. Not tied to a radio. That had to have been a good time. And listen, I'm going to go back and forth. I'm going to try to stay focused, but I'm just saying that because there were a lot of text messages, between her and Martin. Her and Martin, and they didn't read them in court because they have to be pretty salacious. And the judge is trying to be very cool and not, say too much in the open, and not say too much, maybe to even the jury. Some of this stuff they probably won't even get to see, but we know that there was a whole lot of, genitalia being photographed and shared. And there was one text in particular the night of the shooting where Amber had sent him a message after they parted company because they were working together the day of the shooting. They had been doing something with SWAT. And I guess what they say, they have a little saying that they do. And one of them is, you want to touch. Yeah, I bet they do a lot of touching when they're in that car together for 8 or 10 hours, not tied to a radio. I'm just saying. So anyway, this particular day, her and Martin are working together and they were supposed to get together later. Now, she said something on the stand about he had never been to her apartment. So that wasn't a big deal for me because I know she had just moved into that apartment about 2 months ago. She moved in July of last year. Both of them moved in August, and the shooting happened in September. So he's a married man. For her to say he's never been to my apartment doesn't mean that, he's never been and he would never come. He ain't never been because he married and you haven't been there that long. And shoot, why come when we in the car all day, girl? I'm just saying. So that was one of the things that kind of stood out. And then the other thing that stood out was she said when she was in the academy or shortly after she got on, one of the things that she wanted to do was she said she wanted to go work, I think she called it Southeast Division or Southeast area. So Debbie, you in Dallas, Southeast, what does that mean? Because here's what I heard. This is Code Talk, family. When I came on the LAPD, I heard the same kind of thing when I was a recruit candidate. If you want to learn fast, if you want to go to a busy division, is what I heard when I was in the academy. You want to go to a busy division, you want to go to the South End. And, I'm like, okay, I want to learn. I want to be good. I didn't realize, at the time, because I was naive and young, that what that really translates to whenever you hear a police officer say they want to go to a busy division. Timothy Loman said that when he left one department trying to get on Cleveland. He left another department because it was too small, too slow. He wanted to get on the Cleveland PD because, he wanted to go where the action was. That means I want to go where there are Black and brown folks. I want to go where there are minorities, where there are people who are on the lower echelon of society, if you will, socioeconomically disadvantaged, disenfranchised communities, because typically Black and brown folks don't complain when the police treat them poorly because they feel like, what's going to happen? Nothing's going to be done. So why would I even bother complaining? That's why police officers, mostly white folks, say, I want to go to the South End. I want to go to a busy division. I want to go where the action is. She said that today. And so if my gut, which never lets me down, is correct, I believe that means I want to go where there's a lot of Black folks. Somebody let me know in Dallas if I'm right about that. So she does get to go to that special unit that she wanted to go to in Dallas. And then eventually she got to go to the CRT. So when she was selected to go to CRT, she said she was very excited and she really wanted to work with Martin Rivera because, ooh, he was so experienced and he seemed so knowledgeable. And maybe he might want to touch later on, right? And so they partnered her up with young Martin Rivera, the married man. And, you know, here's the mindset. And listen, I can say this because to some extent, we all have a little arrogance about us. We all think we're the shit, right? I don't think I'm Billy Badass because I know anybody can get got. But I'm a tomboy, even though I look like this. I'm a tomboy. And so I'm not afraid to fight. I will bite you. If I can't whip you, yeah, I won't fight fair. I will gouge you. But I'm not afraid to fight. And she doesn't look like she's afraid to fight either. And so, you know, when you work a specialized unit, again, this is what I heard on the LAPD, and it's LAPD, but it's not unique to LAPD. This is the kind of mindset, it's the culture. You want to be in a kick-ass, let's take names unit. You want to be someplace different and apart, set above. You know, you want to walk down the hall, you know, with a little swagger, with a little, you know, little something extra in your step, because you're not working patrol. You're not responding to radio calls. You're part of CRT. So I'm believing in her mind, you know, she's Billy Badass. She's the only girl in this unit and she's working out there with SWAT. What? And guess what? She said before she moved into the new apartment that she was living in, that South Flats, she was living somewhere else. And guess what she used to do when she was over there in that other apartment? She was a courtesy officer. Can you imagine what a courtesy officer might do? A courtesy officer responds to problems within the complex. Somebody in 2B is a little too loud. She'll go over and tell them to simmer down. If there's a problem in 4C, because they give her a discounted rate. Where did you hear that before? Did anybody mention that to you before, family, that goes on? Yeah, I did, because I know what I know. And so she was a courtesy officer in the apartment building she lived in before. And she said she just kind of got tired of being the courtesy officer. That's what she said. I don't believe that for a minute, because remember, she's Billy Badass. She's part of CRT. And that's what I do. It's the culture. It's the mindset. And while I'm telling you all of this, remember that there's something else that plays a part that they haven't talked about in the trial. And I don't know that they will. Maybe it might come up in the civil suit. But I mentioned it on Law and Crime because every time I get a chance to say something that don't nobody else know to say, I say it on national television or on the internet in this case. And so I talked about, you know, the whole mindset of when you're in a specialized unit, when you think you're Billy Badass, and how you conduct and comport yourself. And so if she came on that job wanting to help people, is what she said, you know, the FBI told us they're recruiting around the world. And you know who they're recruiting, because that came out today as well. There was some text messages that she didn't know that they had gotten, because these kids think once they delete something that is, you know, not retrievable. Now, the judge would not let those text messages come in because she said they were more harmful than helpful. That's not the term the judge used. I forget the word because I'm not a lawyer, but it was something about probative or something. Anyway, the judge wouldn't let it in. And I'm sure, based on the way they were talking, that it was something that had to do with some kind of racial connotation. And the reason that I say that is because the prosecutor said, well, listen, she's talking about, you know, she came on the job because she likes to help people. And there was some kind of Martin Luther King Day event that she was working, and she was making some comments about it. So that's why we know the comments that she made wasn't, oh, I just love Black people and I can't wait to work this Martin Luther King Day parade, event, whatever, right? The judge won't let it in. So implicit bias, that's a thing. You may know what I'm talking about. And implicit bias is how you have a belief system about a group of people, and then how you react to them based on that belief system, whether it's appropriate or not. And I know that police departments struggle with implicit bias. Police departments are now starting to have a lot of training regarding implicit bias to help officers, mostly, white officers, understand that all Black folks, are not robbers and drug dealers and pimps, and all Mexicans are not coyotes and mules and whatever else you think about them, right? So I believe, again, my gut, that Amber Guyger came on the job with some implicit bias about Black folks. She probably doesn't really have a whole lot of use for them, because there's been stuff on social media about her family and how they are set up and predisposed. And so she wanted to go work Division III, Southeast, whatever it's called. Because I think that's where, people who look like me are. She wanted to go work there because she wanted to learn. And yeah. So that would explain why, she sees a Black man in his house that she went into and was scared. Really believed, I'm looking through my notes, don't mind me, would really believe that she was going to die because she's in close proximity to this Black man, because of her implicit bias and because of what she's probably been told by folks like Martin Rivera and the other Billy badasses who work the CERT team, the CRT team, and the dudes in SWAT, right, who are dealing with, knuckleheads. Listen, I get it. You're dealing with robberies and burglary suspects all day, every day, and folks are running and hiding and carrying guns and dealing drugs, and that's the only element you deal with. I get how you could think that that little group is everybody, and it isn't. And so I'm sure, they probably talk a certain way because that's the culture. That's the culture. That's what they do when they're amongst their own. They get very comfortable. And listen, don't think because Rivera's last name is Rivera, somehow that he wouldn't engage in that kind of activity. Because listen, I'm not saying everybody, but you guys out there who've been dealt with know what I'm talking about. And those of you who are on the LAPD or some other police department know sometimes, minority officers can be worse than a white officer. It's a thing. And so so she's working with Martin Rivera, and they are kicking ass and taking names, and she is Billy Badass. And she moves over to the South Flats or whatever that apartment complex is called. And she's not, if she wasn't the courtesy officer officially, she might have just been freelancing. I don't know. But I knew that somehow, some way, that was going to play a part in Botham Jean being killed. I believed it before, and I'm even more convinced of it now. And one of the things that she said on the stand today also was that when she moved over there, now you would do this kind of stuff before you move, but she said when she moved over there, she was always researching. she's researching crime in the area. Girl, bye. Yeah, she's researching crime. Why? Who does that? I just talked to you guys a couple of days ago about a couple of officers that got into some kind of off-duty road rage because one officer wanted to stop another car to have a word with them about speeding. And then they wound up, the car he stopped the guy wound up shooting himself in the damn foot. Because there's just some officers, kind of like, the ones that always wanted to be the police and that's all they dreamed and thought about. When they go home, they don't go home. That's why, you've heard me say I never bled blue. I appreciate LAPD, particularly every month around the 1st. I appreciate LAPD, but that was not something that I always wanted to do. It was a means to an end. I'm appreciative that I was able to take care of my family and continue to take care of me because of LAPD, but that is not my life. That does not define me. That's not who I am. And when I'm off work, I promise you, you could drive like you on the damn Autobahn and you won't have no trouble out of me. I don't care. But Amber Guyger is researching crime in the area. Why is she researching crime in the area? She talked about vagrants that sometimes jumped the fence to get onto the property. I wonder if she ever jammed anybody up off duty in uniform in the 2 or 3 months that she was living there before she decided to shoot and kill Botham Jean because he was smoking marijuana in his apartment. And he was smoking marijuana in his apartment because his sister testified that he's ADD and he prefers marijuana over taking other drugs. So that's not in dispute. But I told you all along, I really felt like, because I had heard early after the shooting that he had a conversation with his girlfriend. So if I'm being redundant, I'm just going to do it. Bear with me because there may be some people that haven't heard this. But he had a conversation with his girlfriend earlier in the day where he said the leasing office called, said somebody said they smelled dope coming out of it, marijuana coming out of his apartment. And he was kind of bothered by it. And he was having the conversation with his girlfriend. And then later that night, Amber Guyger comes over. So I believe what I said, that the leasing office called Amber and told her, holler at him when you get off work about him smoking marijuana. And I think that's why she went to his apartment. And I think she had a master key and I think she used it to open the door. That's what I think. And now that we know she was a courtesy officer in another apartment, and we know that she's Billy Badass because she's part of CRT, don't you know? And we know that she researches crime in the area. It makes sense to me. It makes sense to me. Hold on one second. I am going to take a look at a couple of messages before I continue on. Trent, you said, have you talked about her inability to remember anything from the de-escalation training? No, Trent, but I will. What good is continuous post-training if she doesn't have to retain any of it? Classic, I don't recall defense. Yeah, Trent, that was one of the things that she was saying with regards to her training, because 1 minute, she's a trained police officer. She was relying on her training and, her spider senses were up when she got home and the door was already ajar. So she immediately drew her weapon, because that's what everybody does when you come home and you find your front door open. You immediately draw your duty weapon and you get ready to go in and assess and deal with the threat, is what she said. But then the prosecutor asked her about some de-escalation training that she had had earlier in the year in April. Shooting was in September. And she couldn't remember shit about the damn training. She didn't know if she had it. She probably was in the room. She said it was a long time ago. I can't remember. She said she was paying attention, but she really didn't remember much else about the de-escalation training. So to your point, she has selective amnesia. She's very lucid, very clear, very detailed, and has a lot of specificity with regards to what it is she's trained to do, taught to do, should do when it's convenient. But then when when they start getting in her ass about what she did do and didn't do, like, did you provide CPR because you were trained? Oh, was I? I didn't know. Where's the heart in the body anyway? What would I do? So it was very selective in terms of her memory and the kind of training that she had. When it was beneficial, she would mention it in great detail. And when it was harmful, then she didn't have so much to say. So, okay, Joseph, welcome. You're just tuning in. What are you talking about? No one else mentioned, that she's 5'3", and the size you would think in her mindset she would reach for her gun quicker. Okay, so let me say this, Joseph, about her being 5'3", because they had her stand up and they had her demonstrate how she, with one hand, took a stance, and she had the gun held in one hand like this. Now, she had the gun held in one hand, extended out. She's 5'3". They didn't say how tall Botham was, but he didn't look 5'3". So I'm just thinking as I'm listening, that if her arm was extended straight, not up, but straight, and she shot twice in rapid succession, like we're trained, which is what she said, which is what I say all the time. She's trained to shoot 2 rounds, rapid succession. That's what she did. 2 rounds, real quick. And she hit Botham. And the way they described it, the medical examiner said the bullet, well, on the left side, it went in here and it went in a downward trajectory, because they believe that Botham was sitting on his couch. And when she came into the door, he went to stand up. And when he went to stand up, the round hit him and traveled down and did tremendous damage. So that would make sense, because she's only 5'3" and her arm is here. what she said on the stand is when she came through the door, she saw Botham standing back at the furthest wall from the front door. And she said he was kind of pacing from left to right for about 2 to 3 seconds. He was pacing. And as he was pacing, that's when she became so fearful. And then he started to advance. And because he was moving towards her, not quickly, but moving towards her, when he got within 15 feet, she said that's when she fired in rapid succession 2 quick rounds. Well, she's 5'3". If he's standing upright and she's firing with her arm extended like this, that means she probably gonna hit him in the groin. I'm just saying, or in the stomach. She's not gonna hit him up here, is what I believe. And I think that was the point that the prosecution was trying to make, is that, you know, he was getting up, which is what the medical examiner is saying. He was not standing. He was not posing a threat. But she stuck to that. She testified today. I don't think she'll be back on the stand because they brought other people. She stuck to that, and then she tried to editorialize, and the prosecutor rightfully cut that ass right off and said she was being unresponsive because she was like, oh, I'm just so bothered. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I can't touch Mr. Rivera anymore. And he said, non-responsive, strike that. I'm so sorry, she said. I'm so sorry. I'm sure she's sorry. I don't doubt for a minute she's sorry. She's not sorry about Botham Jean. She's sorry that that ass is in peril. She's sorry that she lost her job. And they showed at the end when she was taken out of the apartment, they took her downstairs because she said, they asked her, why was she texting Rivera? This man is at home with his wife. You know he's at home with his wife because you guys were talking and texting earlier, and he was explaining to her something about a Boy Scout meeting he had been at with his kids. And as soon as she killed both of them, the first thing she thought to do, because she didn't want to be alone and she just wanted somebody there with her, was to call another woman's husband and say, hurry, I need you. And of course he couldn't come because he was at the house, right? So she gets downstairs. All of her cop buddies are there, and they're bringing in other folks, and friends are coming to be with her, and they're all comforting her and hugging her. And so the prosecutor did a really good job. I think he got aggressive with her because he was like, well, you were worried about being alone. Did you think about Botham as you left him laying on the floor? Because she didn't do any CPR. She couldn't remember if she had ever been trained in CPR. She said she was doing some damn, I ain't never heard of this, some kind of a sternum rub. It just sounds stupid. She was doing a damn sternum rub. She knew she shot him in the chest because she said to the 911, she shot him in the upper left side, is what she said, upper left side. She said she was aiming for the 10 ring, which is what I talk about all the time. She admitted and acknowledged that police officers, she was trained 2 rounds, rapid succession, 10 ring. So she admitted that when she drew her weapon, when she stood at the door and she saw it was partially open and she drew her weapon, she understood when you draw your weapon, you intend to kill someone, because you only draw your weapon if you intend to use it. And if you use it and you're trained 2 rounds, rapid succession to the 10 ring, you are trying to kill that person. And she had to say, yeah, that's why you don't get on the stand. She had to say, yeah. So, you know, I thought it was all very interesting, very telling. Edward, you said I should have been a lawyer. No, I couldn't have been a lawyer, but I appreciate that. Okay, I'm looking at messages before I go on. Okay, and by her own admission, she rendered minimal aid yeah, it wasn't even a one-handed CPR, Trent. It was that whole sternum rub. Oh, what the hell is a sternum rub? What is that? Anyway. Yeah, you've been shot. You shoot somebody, you know you shot them, you understand. And listen, she had a backpack with her. And in this backpack, the prosecutor pulled out, you know, first aid equipment and things that she could have used to maybe put pressure and apply pressure on the wound, because she knew it was in the upper left. She could have applied pressure. She could have tried to plug it. I mean, listen, I'm not a doctor, but I got sense enough to know if somebody got a hole in them, I want to plug it. Right? I got sense enough to know if somebody's been stabbed, you don't pull the knife out, right? She did none of that. She did none of that because she was too worried about herself. Oh my God, and trying to get this woman's husband out of her house back over there with her because she didn't want to be alone. She just needed somebody there, and it was just awful, and it was the worst time and the worst thing, and she just wouldn't want that for anybody. But she didn't say that when she was talking about that extramarital relationship she was involved in. And I'm just wondering, listen, there's 5 women on the jury, and so I'm just wondering if any of these women are married and how they gonna feel about her constantly dealing with somebody else's husband. I don't know if that's gonna go over well with them. Now, that certainly is evidence, not evidence of the shooting, but it speaks to her character for sure, because the defense tried to make it sound like, you know, she was just this side of Jesus in the beginning. And then we find out that she's dealing with a married man. She knows he's married. She admitted to deleting messages on her cell phone because she said she was embarrassed. She didn't want anybody to know about the affair because it was probably a violation of policy, because although he wasn't her supervisor, he was a training officer. He outranked her, and they're in the same car. And I know a little bit about, you know, dating police officers because I did that and married one. I never worked with him when we were dating, or did I? Maybe I did, but we were the same rank, so it's a little different. I digressed. But anyway, so she's deleting messages, and she admitted to all of that. Yeah, Trent, there was no blood on her uniform, no chest compressions. And again, they tried to say that, you know, she was distracted and she was having a hard time concentrating. And I say she was singularly focused and she didn't have a problem multitasking, because listen, I'm good. Trust me when I tell folks, when one of my sons was younger, I was driving on the Pasadena freeway around the avenues like 64, 52. LA folks, you know what I'm talking about. It kind of winds and curves. I was driving on the Pasadena freeway with one of my sons. He was an infant. I had him in the car seat next to me, because that was when you put babies in car seats in the front. He was in the car seat crying like babies do. And he wouldn't shut up. And it was going to be a minute before I got back to the house. And so I had to get him out the car seat. And now I'm driving with my knee. And for those of you who've ever been in the car with me, you know I will drive with my knee, right? I'm driving with my knee. And then I started breastfeeding my son. So I'm good. I could do a lot of different things. And while I was driving and breastfeeding my son, somebody pulled up next to me and they were honking the horn and they were pointing at me and they were like, and I was like, I got a crying baby. I'm trying to shut up. So I say all that to say, well, I just want to share that with you, but I say all that to say that, you know, I will try to do 2 or 3 things at a time that I probably shouldn't, just like Amber Guyger. And so I don't know, even though I've driven with my knee on the Pasadena freeway and breastfeeding, I don't know if I could be on the phone with 911 after I just shot somebody twice and still be texting. I don't know if she had 911 on speaker and still be texting, oh boy, who's at home with his wife, hurry up, I need you, I fucked up, is what she said. Hurry up, I need you, I fucked up. She's doing all this. Botham Jean is right there, dying. And she's worried about getting somebody over there to come hold her hand. It just didn't seem like she had any empathy for this man. It didn't seem like she could relate to Botham Jean. And that's the problem that I have with a lot of what we see. You know, officers, white officers can't relate to us. They don't look at us the same way they do each other. The officer who shot and killed Philando Castile, when he fired 7 rounds into Philando Castile, didn't look in the back of that car that he was in and think that that little baby in the back could have been his little sister. And maybe it's not a good idea to fire 7 shots into a car with a child. So she didn't have a problem leaving him there. You kidding me? I need Martin. I want to touch a little bit. So I don't know how the jury's going to come, how they viewed all that. I know how I viewed it. I know it was bothering to me. It was upsetting to me. I know that what I heard didn't endear her to me, because I heard a white girl who likes to be aggressive with Black folks who probably don't really have a whole lot of use for Black folks, if I could just keep it real for a minute. Working either as security for that apartment complex or freelancing, know that Botham Jean likes to smoke marijuana and does in his apartment, and she went up there to have a word with him. And when she came through his door with that master key, he stood up and said, hey, hey, what are you doing? Because he said, hey, hey. And she's saying, show me your hands, show me your hands. And then she shot. Now, the reason she said, show me your hands, because we're going to go back to that selective training. She was trained that hands kill. And we know this. This is true. Hands kill. You want to see what's in somebody's hand. So if you're yelling, show me your hands, then aren't you looking at him? Aren't you trying to see if there's anything in his hand that would hurt you, that could hurt you? Are you assessing the situation before you decide to fire 2 rounds, rapid succession in the 10 ring? What the hell is the point of giving orders and saying, show me your hands, if you're not looking to see if there's anything in them that's threatening to you? And so while she stuck to her story, I thought I was going to die. She has yet to say, well, how was he going to kill you? Was he just going to look at you to death? He didn't get close enough to touch you. Now, she said that, again, her training, in part of her training, she was told, and I'm quoting, don't let people get close to you, because if they get close to you, that could be a bad day for you. Now, listen, that's just stupid. Don't let people get close to you. People get close to you all the time. As a police officer, when you write somebody a ticket, you got to get close to them, and they got to get close to you, because you got to hand them the ticket so they can sign it. And then once they sign it, they got to give it back to you. When you arrest somebody, you got to get close to them, and they got to get close to you so you could handcuff them. But she was trained to not let people get close to you, and she wants us to believe that Botham Jean was advancing on her, and therefore he was going to get close to her, and that scared her, and she thought she was going to die if he got close to her. And so, you know, I mentioned this today when we were talking about, you know, implicit bias and the fact that, you know, white folks like to say in uniform that every time they get within close proximity to a Black person, they get scared, and that they think somehow that Black people, just by our mere existence, our Black men, just by their mere existence, is going to cause you to die. And therefore, deadly force was justified. I'm going to have to take an Advil when I get done. I thought talking about this earlier was going to calm me down, family, but I am not. I am not in a good place yet about this. I am so bothered. And the reason that I continue to be so bothered is because I don't know what the jury is going to do. I have no idea what this jury is going to do. I don't know what they think about what she says. I don't know if they think it's reasonable. Something else that she talked about today, as I look at my notes, is that when she got off work, one of the things that she does routinely is she goes to the gym. And that night, September 6th, she was going to go to the gym because she likes to go and work off stress. If she hadn't worked it off earlier in the car with Martin Rivera, she likes to go to the gym. And so even though she had worked this long shift and she was all tired, is what they wanted us to believe in the beginning, she was just, so tired and sleepy and exhausted and just wanted to get home so she could change clothes, get in her car, drive to 24-Hour Fitness where she's a member, and work out. In case Martin couldn't get out the house, because she was really wanting him to come over so they could touch. And if he wasn't coming over, then she was going to go to the gym and work out. So really, how tired was she? She couldn't explain it. She couldn't explain it. And she also talked about, you know, how she routinely works, you know, extra hours. She has an off-duty job. She has an off-duty job that she works in addition to her regular shift, which is whatever it is, 10, 12 hours. When she does get a day off, it's not like she's at home, because, you know, what would she do at home? Martin is with his wife when he's off. They're partners. So she might do a little off-duty work. So, you know, something that she could not explain. I just don't know. I don't know if the jury is going to find it believable or not. Let me see. Okay, so this whole thing, Southeast Patrol. Hey, Debbie, I know you're on here with me. Southeast Patrol, what does that mean? I know you, I don't know if you know how the divisions are broken down, but I'm just curious to know if Southeast Patrol means that's an area where Black folks are. She wanted to be in Southeast Patrol because she could stay busy and she would never be bored, is what she said. And that's where you learn. What does she mean by learn? What do you learn in Southeast Patrol, Amber? You learn how to mess over Black folks? Is that what you learn, Amber, in Southeast Patrol? Do you learn how to mistreat people? You learn how to be Billy Badass with people because you're the only female in CRT? Is that what you learn? Nobody's going to ask that in court. I wish they would. And if they don't ask it in this trial, I hope somebody, will send the civil lawsuit attorneys. Y'all know Lee Merritt. I don't know if he's still representing the family. Send them over to my YouTube channel and tell them to listen to what I'm talking about today. Because somebody needs to ask this heifer these questions. What do you learn? What did they teach you over there in Southeast Patrol? What does it mean you're never bored? What does that mean? Art, the jury is made up of 5 women, 5 men, 8 women, 4 men, and there are 4 female alternates. 5 Hispanic, 5 Black, and 2 that are described as either 1 Asian, 1 white, or maybe 2 whites. I'm not sure, but that's the jury makeup. And so I hope that's helpful for you, Art. Let's see. Trent, you want to know why would the prosecutor push for murder when it's a slam dunk, stick to the manslaughter or criminally negligent? Listen, I don't know. I know a lot of times prosecutors will start high and then they will work themselves down to something lower, because you never know. The person might cop a plea, right? But for me, listen, this was a manslaughter. When she unholstered her weapon, she formed intent, because you can form intent in a nanosecond. And any police officer, because remember, she's trained, she's got 5 years on the job. So let's stick with you, a trained professional. You're a trained police officer, 5 years on the job. And, oh, Debbie, you're in the watch party? Okay, no worries. We'll talk about it later. It's not that important. Southeast would be Black and brown area. Okay, cool. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. So see, I know what I know, you guys. I know what I know. But with regards to the charges, for me, when she says she came to the door and the door was slightly ajar, when she put her key in, the pressure of her putting her key in the door caused it to open up a little bit more. And then she could see someone inside, a silhouette. And then she decided to confront the threat because she's Amber Guyger on the CRT. So she decided she was determined to confront that threat, because that's what a reasonable person would do, right? You come home, your door is ajar, you see somebody deep inside your place, you're going to go in at 5'3", 125 pounds and just deal with them, right? That's what you do. So she's standing at the door, she sees a threat, she unholsters. The minute she unholstered her weapon, she formed an intent by her own admission to fire 2 rounds in rapid succession to the 10 ring to kill him. That's the only reason you do that, because you intend to kill that threat. You intend to end that threat. So that sounds like murder to me. I don't know. That's just me. So we'll see what happens. They had some other people come on after that, and I had to just step away. I had to step away because they were talking about stuff that really didn't interest me. I just wanted to see what Amber Guyger had to say. They were talking to people about the reasonableness of, her being fearful because, she researches the crime in the area. You don't research the crime after you move. You do that before you move. Any police officer with a brain wouldn't move into an area that was crime ridden. And I don't know that this area was, but now that she's there, because she's used to being a courtesy officer, And so she just want to know what's up. Who can I talk to? Who can I get at when I wear my uniform home and have them think I'm on duty, but I'm really off? What vagrant am I going to be talking to today? Who's going to be sleeping in the bushes or jumping the fence that I need to get at? Because I'm Amber Guyger from the C.R.A.H. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what the jury's going to make of it. Obviously they're not listening with my kind of ears. They're probably not reading all into it like I'm reading, the fact that she was the only female and what that does to her mindset. Because listen, family, police culture is a thing. It's a thing. And if you have never been one, you don't understand it. And unfortunately, there's not enough people wholesale who get police culture, who understand police culture, who are willing to explain it the way that I do. Because if folks just knew about the mindset and how you get twisted and how you get caught up and how you get to really thinking, I mean, listen, I clearly will admit I could have been Amber Guyger because I worked in some badass units myself. And I'm not 5'3". I like to think I'm a big girl, at least now. I'm heavier than I've ever been. Don't judge me. But I'm 5'9". And sometimes I get close to 180. Don't judge me. But, my thing is, I'm a female first. I'm a girl. And before that, I'm a mother. I have 4 sons. And so when I came on LAPD, I never came on the department because I wanted to mistreat anybody. And I did want to work the South End, but not because I wanted to go and mistreat people. I wanted to work the South End because I knew the streets. And I knew in the academy because they drilled it into our head. You better know where you are at all times. And I knew that, I expected my training officers to play head games with me because that's what they did back then, where they would drive up and down a street, make a left, make a right, make a left, and then ask you in the middle of the street, stop, where are you? And so these are the kind of things that I had been told during my 6-month academy. And so I thought, shoot, if they're going to play them kind of games, I want to go to 77th. I want to go to Southeast. I lived in 77th. I grew up in 77th Division. I want to be in the South End. I want to be on the streets in the neighborhoods that I know. So if an officer makes a left and a right and a left and then stops in the middle of the block and asks me where I am, I could say exactly where I am because I live here, because I know the area. But listen, I also know that there's a lot of white folks who get on police departments and they want to go where they can learn, where they could stay busy, someplace where they won't be bored, which means I want to go where there's a lot of black folks and a lot of brown folks so I can kick ass and take names. And that's a fact. I talk about it all the time. I talk about it in my book. I talk about the LAPD being 2 departments, one south of the Santa Monica Freeway, the South End, and one north of the Santa Monica Freeway, the more affluent patrol divisions like West LA and some parts of Pacific Division and the Valley. There's some very nice areas around Hollywood and Malibu and Pacific Palisades and very nice areas. And listen, when you work in patrol and you work 77th in September and in October you get transferred to West LA Division, how is it that the officer figures out how to get right? How is it that the white officer who just left 77th don't take that bullshit to West LA Division? Because West LA citizens are not going to tolerate it. And this is not unique to LAPD. This is what happens on police departments all across the nation. There are nice areas and there are not so nice areas. And officers like to go to the not so nice areas because they want to kick ass and take names. They may say it differently, but it means the same thing. And this is the kind of stuff that I heard all the time when I was new on LAPD, after I had been on LAPD for a while, up until the time that I retired. They're officers who want to kick ass and take names. They're elephant hunters. I mean, we got all kind of little, slogans and lingo and cop talk, that I mentioned in my book. Black and Blue, the creation of a social advocate, as well as, you know, what I say when I talk to you guys sometime, because I just want you to understand the culture. If you don't understand the culture, you're going to miss a whole lot of stuff. And you will think that maybe it's reasonable, you know, what's being said and what's being explained away. And that's why police chiefs are so good at minimizing and mitigating errant police officers and bad behavior and deadly force that should not occur, because they will say something in front of a bank of cameras that sounds reasonable. That's why juries, when they hear it, sounds reasonable. They want to give us the benefit of the doubt. Great deference is given to what I say. Great deference is given to what I say. And that's why a couple of days ago, an LAPD officer off duty in the city of Corona shot and killed a 32-year-old man, fired 10 rounds in a Costco, injuring his parents as well. And a jury didn't want to prosecute, declined to indict him for anything, because great deference is given to what we say, because those juries don't understand police culture. And so that's why, family, I do what I do and I talk the way that I do, because I want to help folks understand the culture. The culture. Those of you who are subjected to the culture, you already know. You may not know how to explain it because you weren't inside like I was, but you know exactly what I'm saying. I'm preaching to the choir right now. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I'm just substantiating, corroborating everything you already know, because you deal with it day in and day out. So I'm listening. I'm hearing some things today that in my mind should get that ass found guilty. I don't know if it will. I don't know if it will. Okay, Joseph, what are you saying? I'm 5'9" and confident in my ability to defend myself without pulling a gun as a first resort rather than a last. And it's not for me to say, but I'm thinking she should never have been a police officer. Exactly. And see, that's why I was saying, Joseph, those are the kind of people that, you know, somebody who's been pining away, like Timothy Loman. He wants to be the police so bad. You know, before he came to Cleveland PD, he was on another police department and they showed him the door. And then after Cleveland PD let him go, he went to another agency, and there was so much uproar on social media that he decided to resign. But in between all of that, he was applying for like 18 different police departments, all of which should be a red flag. You know, all of that should be problematic, because you're like, well, why do you want to be the police? Betty Shelby shot and killed Terrence Crutcher because he was walking away from her, a black man with his hands in the air, walking with his back to her. And this heifer said he scared her more than anything in her life ever. And she shoots him in the back, and a jury acquits her. And then she goes on to a neighboring agency and gets hired as a deputy sheriff, reserve, right? She don't even want to get paid. She'll be a reserve because she just want to be around black folks so bad. She want to kill another black man. I'll do it for free. I'll be a reserve officer. So yeah, listen, I know anybody could get got. And I think karma is real, and I never, ever mistreated anybody, because I didn't want that to come back on me or one of my 4 sons. I treated people the way I wanted you to treat one of my sons if you stop them. And I figured out very early in my career that there's a way to do the job. I got to take bad guys to jail. Listen, if you rob a bank, if you rob a store, I didn't tell you to rob the store, but I'm going to take your ass to jail because that's what I do. That's my job. But on the way to jail, I'm going to take you with your dignity. And I'm not going to treat you like you're less than because you are trying to feed your family in the only way that you know how. But that's just me. And so, you know, while I had the opportunity to work specialized units, I worked in busy divisions. I was never bored. I worked South Bureau Crash. I worked Southwest Division. I worked in the jungle in Southwest Division when we were doing battle with the FOI every day on PM Watch 3863. And I never treated people, you know, like I was gonna, especially guys, because I know I'm a girl, and any guy, even at 5'9", well, I wasn't 180 then, but I knew I couldn't beat him up. So, I'm just bothered by all of this. And I think in my mind, for me, the takeaway is that she told on herself and that she let people know that, she really thought she was more important than what she was. And that's why she wore her uniform home, because she wanted to instill fear, because at 5'3", ain't nobody really trembling in their boots when they see her coming, right? But they will respect the uniform, most folks. And so that's why she went to Botham Jean's apartment in uniform when she was off duty, kind of still being a courtesy patrol officer, to have a holler at him about that marijuana thing that he does in his apartment. And it went sideways, and we'll never know. Now, there was some witnesses early on that said they heard kind of arguing, they heard confrontation, and people have been asking me about this chick named Bunny. I didn't see her get called during the case in chief, and I don't imagine that she's going to be called, but she was one of the witnesses who had a lot to say, and I think she wound up going through some stuff based on what she said she saw and heard that night. And, so it just makes you wonder. It just makes you wonder, what are they hiding? Where's that 911 call that I've heard and I've played for you? Was she working security? And I understand why the leasing office won't admit it, but was she really working security? I don't know. So unless you guys have something more, I will. Do police departments teach, what are IPC skills, Broderick? I don't know what that means, an IPC skill. That might be some kind of an acronym that I may be familiar with, but just not by those initials. So I don't know if you can type to me real quick and tell me what IPC stands for. I'll try to respond and let you know if that's a thing that's being taught, if I know whether or not that's a thing that's being taught. But anyway, so I hope you guys have enjoyed my recap. I've been tied to the internet all week. I will be again on Monday, Law and Crime Network, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific. And then Tuesday, I will be on the Law and Crime Network from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific. I will be on with a different host on Tuesday. So we'll be talking about whatever's going to be going on with the Amber Guyger trial, if it's still continuing, as well as a couple of other trials that they're following, because the Law and Crime Network follows more than just one. Okay, you're saying interpersonal communication skills. What would that be? Just how to talk to folks? Broderick, that almost just sounds like common sense. And, I say all the time, if sense were common, everybody would have it. So, I know LAPD some years ago, they did a whole thing where, it was called Woosha, where we were supposed to be able to get to a happy place and talk calm and, be nice to people who were in stress. We took that course once and somebody probably made a whole lot of money. Would that be an IPC? I don't know. I think right now LAPD is in the midst of some kind of situation where they're doing yoga. I think they're doing yoga on the LAPD now, because I have a gentleman that I have come to know who is very much involved. He's Indian, I believe. And he is working very closely with LAPD and teaching some kind of nonviolence, peaceful negotiations. If you're dealing with a fool, none of that's going to matter. If you're dealing with somebody who's got implicit bias issues, and if you're dealing with somebody who was recruited by the KKK, none of that's going to matter. And so that's why I say to you guys that look like me, you need to be telling your young people to keep their nose clean, make sure their credit is right, and why don't y'all just go ahead and infiltrate, get on these police departments. Change is going to come from the inside. You might get on a department somewhere and have a chance to work with the Amber Guyger, and when she thinks, she's going to be Billy Badass for the day, you just pull her to the side and say, not today, not today. So that's my 2 cents, and I'm sticking to it. Thanks for coming back and listening on this special edition of Sergeant Dorsey Speaks. We've been at this now for a minute, and I want to respect your time. And I'm like Michael Clark Duncan on the Green Mile. I was tired. I gotta go lay down. You guys have a good weekend. We might do this again on Monday, depending on what happens with the trial. Until then, be good. Be safe.